I'm super excited to show you guys what we've been working on. This is a planty box. It has literally everything you need to make your own garden inside or outside. We're outside right now because the lighting's super nice. Trust me, it's not because of the weather. As you can see, my dog is just in the shade right now because it's super hot. I don't know why Californians decided to just live in the middle of the desert like Mad Max. But regardless, if you want to see me open this bad boy up, make sure to drop a follow and a like, and I'll see you then.
Tree fern. Is it a tree with a beautiful trunk, or is it a fern with lovely soft fronds? It's a tree fern. This is a true fern. Now, as a true fern, it has neither flowers nor seeds, but rather spreads by beautiful spores. Get released from the back of those fronds into the air. It has this wonderful trunk that is a thin stem on the inside, surrounded by fibrous roots. And it grows up into this crown and extends into these gorgeous fronds. These plants need to stay moist. Because the trunk is made up of roots, you even have to water the trunk. They've been around since the prehistorical, pre-dinosaur, pre-anything time, and they're still here looking beautiful. Monstera deliciosa. Monstera because the leaves are monstrous. Deliciosa because they actually are fruit-bearing plants with delicious tasting fruit. Here you can see the spathe, which is covering the spadix. This is the flower. And then over time, this spadix will make way and allow the fruit to form. This is the fruit of a monstera. And supposedly it has a flavor like pineapple and banana. Sometimes we hear plants are epiphytes, but what does that actually mean? It refers to plants that grow in conjunction, in harmony with other plants, generally trees, growing along the branches, along a trunk. What does that actually look like in nature? It looks a little bit like this. This is a bromeliad growing along the branches of this big, beautiful tree. It's not parasitic. They're growing in harmony together as nature intended.
Do you want an infinite amount of snake plants? First, you're going to want to cut the leaf like this. Then you're going to want to cut the leaves into a V shape like this. Then you're going to want to put the leaves in a jar of water like this, with the V slightly below the water line. Come back for an update in about a month or a month and a half.
Hey guys, for the 10 people who liked my first video, this is part 2 of my Albo Addisonii adventure. I'm just going to show you how I mix up my aroid soil. Some people get really crazy with their ingredients here, but I just do like 2 parts regular soil to 2 parts perlite to a little bit of charcoal and some systemic insecticide. Mostly because fungus gnats are a fat no for me these days. The only fancy thing I do is the mesh around like oranges and stuff you get from the grocery store. Just overlap that and tuck it in the bottom so your soil doesn't fall out over time. And you can go ahead and fill it up from there. Usually I wouldn't fill it all the way up, but I'm going to have to make a moss pole for this one, so I guess like and follow if you want to see a part 3 on how I make those. I hope you're ready for the fastest terrarium you've ever seen. It kind of looks like I'm just throwing the plants around at this speed, but whatever. So you need some rocks, some mesh, some charcoal, some more mesh, and then you can add your dirt. Now that it's reminiscent of a Dairy Queen cake from childhood, we can start adding plants. Today's menu items include some moss and string of turtles, and Peperomia periscifolia, and some more, and then a liverwort, which is one of my favorites, and a teeny tiny clover, and some more moss, and then a little staghorn fern I propagated, oh, and some giant string of baby tears and creeping fig. I'm also going to throw some Boston fern cuttings in there. I don't know if they'll root, but it's worth a shot. You guys are going to hate me, and I'm sorry about the rain, but I just got a batch of Rhaphidophora tetrasperma, which were labeled as mini monstera, or monstera guinea. I don't know if that's correct all the way, but I think there's some difference, but one of them has variegation in the bunch, so guess what I'm taking home today? That. As you can see, it's really small, and it's way more apparent on the underside of this leaf. But look at, it's a wee tiny little elbow spot and some mint variegation in there. I'm panicking, I'm freaking out. Oh.
Time to show you guys everything in action. So after I expanded all the soil, I went ahead and moved everything inside to where I'd be setting up my planting box. I made sure to strap and slide the lid underneath so it can catch any excess water that may flow down there when we're watering our plants. One question that I saw that I'm going to go ahead and answer was whether or not the wood used for the planter takes water damage over time. It actually doesn't. This planter box was designed to withstand water, so we used marine grade plywood. It's the same stuff they use in boats. I wouldn't encourage anybody to use this as a raft though. Actually, if you get one of these and you end up doing that for some reason, go ahead and stitch me. Getting back to the setup though, you'll notice that I'm filling each layer and then sliding the next frame over top, which I think is the best way to get the right amount of soil in every nook and cranny. So you'll notice in the middle, there's soil going down from the top of the planter all the way to the bottom. The reason for that is plants like tomatoes need to have a lot of space for the roots to grow. After saying hi to my dog and letting him outside, I went ahead and started setting up the final layer. I neglected to do this, but in the future, if you're setting up your planty box, I recommend sliding a piece of parchment paper or tarp underneath the planty box just to catch the extra soil for an easier cleanup. And there we go. I super love the way it turned out. We're finally ready to start planting seeds in the next video. Here it is. It doesn't look like much, but there's a lot more to it, trust me. I'm gonna go ahead and skip showing you the gloves, the seeds, and the soil. We'll get to that later to reveal the rest of the planty box. Okay, now for the fun part. So each of these 5 boxes inside slide out and stack against each other like that. We're gonna build an entire tower out of these frames that we're gonna fill up with that soil later. And yes, that soil expands by like 5 times its size. It's ridiculous.
Reminder to remove your yellowing leaves. Just like that toxic relationship in your life, they aren't going to change. And they are draining your plant's energy.
On April 2nd, I propagated my fiddle leaf tree. "15 days later, little roots. 2 days later, 2 branches on the big plant. Go leaf, go. OMG 5 days later, and 4 new leaves. And look at those little BB roots. 4 days later, growing so fast. Baby buds on the main plant. 10 days later, the leaves are darkening. And look at these crazy roots.
Really realize quite how many plants I had until I started putting them all together. These are all of the plants that just fell off while I was moving my plants around to get them in order. Oh, and then some more hanging plants up here. I split one of the spider plants the other day, so I have some spider plant babies. More spider plants. I want more spider plants. And oh yeah, that's my doom table. Pretty big agave I accidentally stole. Different story. And I've got my herbs up here, which also need new herbs. So we'll start out with some spider plants, and then we've got some sort of orchid here, and some donkey tail, and some more spider plants, and some string of pearls, more donkey tail. And we've got a couple other plants down here, more string of pearls. Yeah, a bunch more string of pearls. I really like string of pearls. Some more donkey tails. Yep. And we've got my collection of keeper plants. These are my favorite plants in my favorite pots. And we've got my collection of cactuses and coffee cups. Oh yeah, that's quite a collection of cactuses and coffee cups. And then over here we've got all of the plants that I need to find new homes for before we move to Hong Kong. Mine just seems like Pete's coming because it comes fast. Didn't really realize.
So my friends came over this weekend and did a pretty good job of trying to get rid of my plants, but I have a lot of plants. So I have now set up a little free plant library out front, and hopefully people will come and take my plants.
Hey there, my buddy Iguana Del Rey. So you want to know how I rescued this and got it to grow to this point. First, it should be noted that I did purchase this plant last year, and I purchased them as 3 individual vines between 1 to 2 feet long. It grew to a very nice size last year, but when I brought it indoors, it did not like its new conditions. And it dropped all of its beautiful leaves, and I was only left with what looked to be a dead vine. Being the plant mama that I am, I never gave up hope, and I continued to water as normal. During the springtime, and as soon as the weather warmed up, I brought her right back outdoors into conditions she loves the most. Now, because she did suffer so greatly during the winter months and she did lose all of her leaves, what that did is it promoted new growths of offshoots of vines to grow, and is the reason why she is growing like a monster today. That is her way of making up for lost time and also ensuring her survival. So guys, show me the weirdest plant you have in your entire collection. And I'm talking about weirdo strange. I'm talking about strange as in only a plant mama or papa could ever love. And make sure you stitch this video so that I can see it, and I'll show you mine first. And this is it, guys. This is the Sinantia marnierianum, also known as the bundle of sticks plant, and this is native to Madagascar. Now, this is what I consider the chameleon of plants, because if we take a closer look, you will see this can very easily blend into the background, looking much like dead sticks or twigs. This is a very effective disguise, also a survival technique to prevent this plant from being eaten by hungry predators. But the most fascinating attribute of this plant is the unique and very outrageous blossoms that they bloom. They bloom these very unique birdcage-like flowers, and they smell so tropically delicious, smelling much like Fruit Loops cereal. How crazy is that? Show me a plant that you once hated, but now you love so much. I'll show you mine first. So this one right here is my most hated, or was once my most hated. And I actually got this off of Facebook from a lady that was selling plants. I made my purchases, and when I was leaving, she demanded that I take this one with me. It was her free gift. I didn't want it, guys. I'm like, where is the secret button that will cause it to do something? Anything, because this right here, my friend, is just not doing it for me. Apparently, guys, this is a begonia that'll grow about 3 feet tall, will grow rather large leaves, and this is known as the lily pad begonia or the lotus leaf begonia, of course, for the shape of its leaf. And take a look at that little baby leaf right there, cute peachy orange color, and of course, look at all those adorable little wrinkles. But guys, there is a little secret button. If we take a look at the center of the leaf, you will notice a new baby growth growing. If you remove this and plant this, this will grow into a whole new baby plant. Welcome back, guys, to part 2 of how this Cissus Discolored was rescued and how we grew it to this point. If you did not see part 1, make sure that you do. That is where we share the details. So as we stated in the last video, this plant right here suffered drastically during the winter season, so bad in fact that it almost died, and it dropped each and every last one of its leaves. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that it is actually a grooming or even pruning process to remove majority or all of the leaves to promote even more abundant and healthy growth from the plant. Because when a plant suffers drastically or is damaged, the plant actually goes into emergency mode, and it will secure its livelihood in the best way that it can. And that is actually what's happening in this case, where this is growing like a mad plant. Just as long as I can provide her with everything that she wants and everything that she needs, she will continue to grow like a mad plant. And in this case, I believe that nature was her best medicine. Welcome to part 2 of why your plant may be growing so slow, and for the fact that it may not be your fault, it may just not have hit its growth spurt yet. Now guys, if you haven't seen part 1, make sure that you do so that you'll be up to speed with what's going on now. As I mentioned in part 1, the way that you're really going to tell that your plant is coming into maturity or is hitting its growth spurt is by really looking at the stem area. And when you begin to notice that it begins to thicken up and starts doubling in size or even tripling in size and gets larger and larger, well, that's a great indication that it's hitting its growth spurt and it is maturing. And it's also a great indication that your leaves are really gonna start growing a whole lot larger. Now your plant is more established, it has more energy, and now, my friends, it'll grow more rapidly. Look at this. Look at this. Now look at this. So if we're honest, we all know that we've done some pretty crazy things or have grown our plants in some pretty crazy ways. Well, I want to know, what is the craziest way or thing that you have done with your plants? What were your results? And of course, stitch this video so that I can see and we can also check you out as well. So here recently, guys, I decided to create a living plant work of art, and I was able to do it by propagating a plant and making a certain arrangement. What I did was propagate this snake cactus and decided to train its little babies. And with some bending and twisting and winding, we came up with this, guys. How absolutely insane is this? Look how it slithers. Look how it crawls. I'm just so amazed at the snaking nature of this plant. And it doesn't stop there, guys, because we're actually growing this on a 4-foot tomato cage, so this is just a start. Hey guys, I would like to know, what is the rarest plant that you have in your entire collection? I would like to hear all about it and also what makes it so rare. And of course, guys, I will go first. And this right here is it, guys. This is what I consider the holy grail of rarity, at least in my collection. And believe it or not, this is even more rare than the Philodendron Sancti. Now, of course, it's probably not as popular and probably not as pricey, but I guarantee it is even more rare. Now, there's not a whole lot to be said about this Philodendron. The only pictures that I've been able to find on this is from a botanical garden in France. And I was only able to obtain this one because I do have connections with someone that is affiliated to a particular botanical garden, but we're not going to talk about specifics in fear that I may one day just mysteriously disappear. Just take my word for it. We do have some clusters of flowers coming along, maybe some babies in the future. Hey there, Cape Fear. I am so sorry to hear that you are struggling with some of your plants, so I'm going to go ahead and share with you some tips that I use to grow my ferns, my epiphytics, and also other moisture-loving plants. So the major key to growing these successfully is being capable of providing them enough humidity and moisture within the air. I am an avid believer, if you're growing your plants indoors, it is a must that you get yourself a humidifier, thereby being capable of having more control and even being capable of creating a microclimate within your grow space. And the way that I'm capable of creating a microclimate outdoors is by growing tall vegetative plants and shrubs that act as a border around my garden. And the way that I grow my plants is very congested, very compact, and tightly together. Growing a variety of plants so densely populated helps to absorb, maintain, and retain moisture a whole lot longer. And with the assistance of the canopy of my tree, I'm able to have my slice of paradise. And welcome to part 2 of advantages and also disadvantages of growing your plants indoors and also outdoors. And if you have not seen part 1, get out of here because you're going to be totally lost. So again, guys, growing my plants outdoors for 15 years and no major watering issues, even during the rainy season. Now, I will have to admit that during the rainy season, I've had occurrences where leaves will fall off because of overwatering stress, but usually the leaves will grow right back, and it's never been an issue where plants have just started to die off. Again, nature just has a way of taking care of itself, and this even applies to insect infestation. I don't have as many problems as indoor growers have with insects just totally infesting their grow space. And because I do grow my plants outdoors in prime condition, the health level and also the immune system level is like way up there. So they are better equipped to handle majority of things that come their way. Hey there, Iguana Del Rey. You asked a very good question, and I'm going to try to answer it in the most thorough way that I can within 60 seconds. Some of my plants are potted, and some are growing directly in the ground. And then also keep in mind that I do have an assortment of different sizes of pots as well. And I know with as many plants as I have, you would think that it's an impossible feat to water my plants correctly, right? But it is actually so much easier than when I was growing my plants indoors. Because you see, Mother Nature doesn't abide by any rules, regulations, protocols, instructions. She just does her own thing. And she has a way of taking care of her own and also balancing everything out. And believe it or not, I actually water majority of my plants all at the same time, once every day or once every other day. I grow my plants outdoors here in Florida, and you know, water almost evaporates instantly. And I water with my water hose, so I just really have to keep in mind which plants need more water and which plants need less, but really no specifics on anything. I've grown my plants over 15 years outdoors, no major issues yet.